Hey, Judy.
Hey, Lisa, good to see you as always.
You too. How are things?
Things are going just great. It's always a better day when we get to do our podcast together.
I agree, and I'm tickled, and I cannot wait to talk about today's topic, which is writing as prayer.
Ooh, I love that topic.
Yeah, I before we got on today, I found some great quotes.
Okay.
And I mean, it is a historical truth that people over the centuries have used writing as prayer. And you don't hear much about that right now. I haven't heard
Mm-mm.
much about that right now.
Mm-mm.
And so I thought that would be a really great topic for us to explore.
I like it. I like it a lot. So you said you had some good quotes. Let's hear them.
I do. Oh, well, but just wait. Okay, before we get into this, because I do have got some great quotes, I got some thoughts, but I want to backtrack just a little bit.
Oh,
We
right. Okay.
we talked back in episode 140
Uh-huh.
about writing to write, about priming the pump, about using writing to get us writing in whatever form that we wanted to do. And I wanted to say that one of the things that I brought were those journal prompts or
Mm-hmm.
writing prompts.
Right.
And I just wanted to give a shout out to Danielle LaPorte. I got a book of hers a while ago, and it is called the Firestarter sessions. And I
Oh.
love this book so much. And it's really about soulful practices, guide to creating success on your own terms, really thinking about how do you want to feel and what's going to get you that feeling. Okay. Instead of saying,
Okay.
I want a new car, why do you want what's the feeling that that new car is going to get you? What are you
Mm-hmm.
aiming for here? What's that feeling underneath the new car? And I liked it so much that I bought the
The
workbook that goes
workbook.
along with it. And what was so cool is this is one of those things that I wanted to just kind of show you. I actually did the exercises in this book. And what
Lisa,
is
that's
so cool
amazing. Good
is look at
job.
look at how she organized it. It's got blank spaces, and I didn't write sentences on this one. I just wrote words and put bubbles around it. You can do whatever you want. And I loved how not only does this get me my thoughts and feelings out, but it's a
Mm-hmm.
record of what I was thinking when I was working through this process. And
That's
so I
awesome.
wanted to say, I love writing to write, not only, of course, to get myself the juices flowing, but just to accomplish one's goals in life. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which now brings me to the next set that I purchased. Now, I purchased this last year and I bought this. Now, this is copyrighted in 2005 and it was
Mm-hmm.
the 10th anniversary of version.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's 2020,
23.
almost 24. So now this is almost 20 years later. So
Right.
book now his concepts would be this if they come out with a new one will be a 30th anniversary edition.
Correct.
But,
Yep.
but this is not that old. It's a workbook that goes along with it.
Yay.
And what I liked about this one was that, like that one of the other starters that I shared with you, it has pages like this where you fill in boxes.
Uh-huh.
It also has spaces where you don't have to fill in like a prompt at the top of the page and then a whole blank
Whole
page.
page of, yeah.
But it has just like
Um,
lines,
I like that.
where it you don't have to think a long time on one topic. You just have to think a short amount of time on a lot of different topics. So I am excited to begin exploring this one. I haven't exactly decided when I'm going to just start this series, but it's definitely on my, not my bucket list, but on my to-do list.
To-do list.
But I
Jack
don't really have
Canfield
to-do
is
list,
amazing.
so I don't know exactly when that's going to happen, but it's on my, maybe it is a bucket list.
Well, for those that don't know Jack Canfield, he's the chicken soup guy.
Yes, the Chicken Soup for the Soul editor. And we did
Right.
before
Well, he
this,
was the originator. And
he was the
now,
originator, yes.
yeah.
And we were discussing when we were just getting ready for this podcast today. Judy, how many books did you think was in the series of Chicken Soup for the Soul?
Oh, I said at least 50.
And I looked it up.
And
I think it was
351, you said.
321.
Was it 21?
According to the Googles, yes. But yeah, he's got quite a few of those books under his belt. Now, I don't think he probably has hands-on on any of those at this point in time. But yeah, I'm excited about beginning that journey. I just don't exactly know when yet, but it's definitely on the to-do list. Yeah, I guess that
Well,
would be
if you ever notice that someone has been in your house rummaging through your books and there are several missing, you'll know who was there. Oh, you need a lending library, because I'm not going to buy all these books after you've had them and don't read them. And I have.
But I do read them. I read them, and there are a few that I do. And it seems like books about self-help, books about writing, books about writing about yourself, legacy writing, journal writing. Those are the kinds of books that I really gravitate towards. That's what we
Right.
talk about. That's what this podcast is about. That's what we're doing here.
Yep.
That's
No,
what I
you're
love,
right.
and I
You're
want to
right.
spread the joy. So today we are talking about writing as a form of prayer.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to kind of start out with a couple of it's so succinct. English poet John Keats, his one sentence quote is, "All writing is a form of prayer."
Mhm.
Doesn't get more succinct than that. And
No.
really tied to that one, almost verbatim, but with a little twist, is Diane Ackerman, who's an American poet and author. She said, "Writing is my form of celebration and prayer."
I like
that
Okay.
too.
Yeah, I do
So,
too.
when I sat down and I was thinking, why? Why is writing and prayer, writing such an important component of prayer, and how can it be a part of prayer? I came up with three things.
Okay.
Okay. So the first one has to do with concentration. The second one has to do with connection. And the last part has to be with documentation. Okay. Those are the three things we're going to talk about today, kind of explore. So the first one has to do with concentration. So what
Focus.
yes, exactly. In our crazy ass world that we're living in right now, it seems like we are constantly being bombarded with information and entertainment, and just our lives are a constant, things are coming in at us. And can't hear you. Can't hear you.
The phone and the television and the radio, and I mean, if somebody's bored just for 30 seconds, they've got their phone in their hands and they're doing something. It's almost a shame, because it robs us of our chance to have some silence in our lives.
Yes, exactly. And I think that when we're writing, that physical process of typing or writing helps to focus our thoughts by minimizing the distractions.
I agree.
It brings us to this place, this here, this now, in a very physical and practical way.
Exactly. I was talking before we started about a book that's been meaningful to me, and this might be a time to talk about it just for a minute. Christina Baldwin, back in 1990, published a book called Life's Companion, and her subtitle was Journal Writing as a Spiritual Quest. And there was one quote in here that I thought was so interesting. It says, "When people have no silence in which to reflect, they cannot reflect." And it goes on to say, in this cultural atmosphere, to reclaim your right to silence is actually an act of independence and the first necessary step in finding your spiritual center.
Wow.
I think that's a very appropriate quote to include in our day-to-day, because it does. If you aren't reflecting, and we've called it all different names, meditation, whatever, but reflecting, I call it staring at the wall time. I just need so much staring at the wall time every day, and it's never unproductive. It brings me clarity, brings me focus. And I'll just slip in a little story. I was telling you earlier, I knew that after my mother passed that I wanted to write her obituary. And just I called it a voice. It wasn't a voice, just a something said, go sit
An
down at your
intuition.
computer. Yeah, I sat down at my computer and I started typing. And in 20 minutes, I had a 30 stanza poem, which ended up being Mom's obituary.
Yep.
And I looked at that and went, huh, where'd that come from? And we know where it came from. You know, it came from a connection with the divine, because there was no way. I mean, I like to write poems, but not that fast and not that quick and not that appropriate, right?
Right. So I
Yeah.
guess you've just jumped into the second part of this, the discussion. So, not only does journal writing give us that focus, but I think there's a focusing with not a goal, but a connection with as our intention. We want to have a connection either, I don't know, and I don't think this is, either or, with ourselves, with others, and or with the divine. And I think that's what you're illustrating right there, is by writing and having that focus, we can make a connection that otherwise we wouldn't have found.
I think that's incredibly true. I mean, I think we've all heard that we use about 10% of our brain, and that 90% never really gets triggered or stimulated. Well, I think if you reflect and if you are making connections and focusing, it can open up some of that other 90%. What do you think?
Well, I've heard that phrase, that 10% comment debunked, but
Have you?
yes, I have. But I also believe that there is a heart opening that happens in meditation, in prayer, and in writing, and in the intersection of all of them. And that's what we're talking about today.
Okay,
I think
that's awesome.
that when you do that, you are developing a closer connection. By the very process creates the ability to make the connection in maybe a quicker and a deeper way, because of what we talked about before, because of that clarity that you're fostering by the focus. And I think this happens, I wanted to bring this up too. I think, today in our society, we have people who are constantly being labeled, whether it's in schools or as adults. It's like, oh, I've just been labeled as ADHD or ADD or some kind of
Exactly.
I've just found out that I'm on the Asperger's, and I have Asperger's, or I'm on the continuum for whatever. I think when we acknowledge that we all have concentration issues in one shape, way, form of or another, that we make
We compensate.
compensation for that. And by writing our thoughts and feelings and worries and praise, all the components of prayer onto the paper,
It
really
clarifies those things.
helps.
Yeah.
It helps clarify, and it helps make that connection.
I think that is so incredibly true. And I think that without that quiet time, as I just quoted from Christina, without that silence, without that, we fill everything with so much junk that we don't have that silent time to fill with those connections. And we don't trust that we can benefit from those. Try telling a teenager to put down their phone and you'll know what I mean. It's just, there's no confidence that if I don't have
and not
that.
only teenagers, parents.
No, true.
I mean, I think it's worked its way up the ladder. It's not just teenagers anymore who are, fill every spare moment with information technology.
I mean, the phones are just amazing. It's amazing what you can learn. It's amazing what Google can teach you. There's a YouTube video for everything.
Everything, as we were talking about with dog grooming. Yes.
Yes.
It's wonderful, but it's also addictive.
It is addictive. I've been having trouble sleeping, and I find myself sitting on the edge of the bed, ready to put my phone on the phone charger. And I'm going, oh, I wanted to Google this. And oh, yeah, that's right. I wanted to look this up and that up. And the next thing I know, it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I still haven't gone to bed. And, then what happens? It's
Yeah, then
9 o'clock in the morning and I'm still not out of bed. And I have
exactly.
this wonderful dog who, when I get up, and she seems to have amazing
A bladder control.
bladder, and she just holds it. And if she really gets desperate, she will squeak, but
Not so
you
much.
know, no, not so
Yeah.
much. So I think it's just confirmation that it's not just the teenagers. You're absolutely right.
Okay. So Judy, let's keep moving forward here. We've been talking about dogs and information technology. Let's
Of
get back
course we have.
to prayer and writing. So we've talked a little bit about how the writing in terms of a prayer life, in terms of its connection with prayer, like meditation, it really helps us clarify and focus and concentrate, minimizes our distractions, and helps us to organize our thoughts. And we want to do that because we want to have a deeper connection with the divine. We want to have a sense that, we aren't alone in this struggle. So the last thing that I want to talk about is the documentation. And I think this is why I keep all my journals. It's because when you write your prayers, your thoughts, your hopes, your dreams, your aspirations, your stuff down on the paper as a prayer, as a meditation, you really are documenting your spiritual journey. You're providing the background, you're providing the evidence so that down the road, you'll be able to see your own.
Oh, I forgot that I thought about that, or,
Exactly. You'll be able to reflect on your process. And of course, stay encouraged at all the blessings and all the answered prayers that have occurred over the span of time that you've been journaling or writing or, doing a practice of documenting your thoughts.
That's such a great answer to why should I write it down? It's my thought I should remember. Well, I can witness for you that as you get older, you don't remember. So having it written down, I look at some of the things I wrote 20 years ago and I think, wow, I'm so glad I wrote that down, because that's a real good insight into where I came from and what I was wanting and how I feel about things. And I wouldn't have probably been able to articulate it again without a little bit of glancing at what I had written.
Sure, exactly. No, I totally get it. And I guess that also, in the past, I have struggled a little bit with two different kinds of journaling. One is the morning pages where you just get all the gunk out. And the other one is thoughts that I want other people to read somewhere down the road, And really, when you look at journal writing as a spiritual practice, you can acknowledge that it's all the same, isn't it?
It really is.
When you pray, the divine, and I did want to put a caveat. I'm using the word divine because that's my word. You put in your word. And so many people will get into all the different choices. You do you, but that's all I'll say. It's, even before I write it down, even before I say it, even before I pray it, even before I meditate about it, it's already out there. The prayer is really for me. It's really,
correct.
For my soul, my heart, my journey, my experience.
And to keep other things from getting in the way and watering it down and polluting it and all that kind of thing. It's getting it down in its purest and simplest form for me. That's how it seems.
And sometimes it might not be real pure and simple. Sometimes it might be really messy and muddy. But that's okay, because that's what's there. And it's to try to sanitize it or make it sound spiritual.
No, No,
That's not
I
what we're
agree. You
getting at
can't do
here.
that. And I don't think that's, I know what I said, and I agree with your adding to it. I just don't think most of the time mine is not pure and simple. I'm just saying it gets down what I'm feeling. It's not interjecting a bunch of other people's feelings, I guess
Yes,
is what I'm
yes.
trying to point out.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So it's pure in that they're my words, my
Yep,
reflections. So yeah.
exactly. And you know, the other thing that I think is it comes up into my, comes comes to me very often is back in the day when I was in college, we were always encouraged in the church that I was affiliated with at that time to have a quiet time every day.
Okay.
And somebody said, you know, a quiet time is not simply listening to a current singer or you know a particular song and feeling you know meditating on the words of a song and feeling good about it
Mm-hmm.
as you go on in your day, but a quiet time is really a time of being real with God
Mm-hmm.
and you know reading the word and meditating on it and putting into practice intention of how you wanted to live your spiritual journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, you know, this is all coming all around, you know, but you said earlier about when people have no silence in which to reflect, they cannot reflect. That
Mm-hmm.
quote by Christina Baldwin.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When people don't set aside the time to write, they don't write. When they don't set aside the time to pray, they don't pray. It's it's a fact that you have to make time for what you find important.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that by journaling and writing your thoughts and your feelings and your prayer, you're really getting the most bang for your buck.
Well, I agree with that. I even stay away from guided meditations because I'm
Mhm.
listening to somebody
Yes,
else's words
yes,
about
yes.
what to meditate on. So I've made it a practice if I'm listening to a 10-minute guided meditation,
Mhm.
then I turn everything off and I'll spend another 10 minutes just reflecting, where
Yes.
did this take me? What did I feel about this? Because it's really about me. And if I'm being guided, it's someone else guiding me. And I feel like this is my time for connection.
Yeah.
And so, like I say, I kind of stay away from the guided meditations. I even stay away from listening to music in my quiet time because music always seems to take me to what was I doing when I first heard this song, or what do I
Mm,
think about these words, or what do they mean to me, or have I seen the video of this song? It gets in the way. It
mm,
doesn't allow my mind to really open up and to connect with my heart and get the words down on paper that are really being stimulated in me.
mhm,
So I
mhm,
don't know. Sometimes people say, "Well, I sit and I put on my iBuds and I listen to music and I have my quiet time." That's not quiet time. That's
mm-mm,
that's
mm-mm.
that's got interruption in it. And
Right.
I was talking to my son the other day. We were riding in the car, and he said, "Mom, you don't even have the radio on." I don't turn the radio on a lot when I'm
Mm,
driving because that
mhm,
driving time is a really good quiet time. Yes, I have to concentrate on my driving. However, I still have the lack of extra noise. You know what I
mm,
mean?
mhm, mhm. Yeah, and I guess the writing, yeah, of course you can't write while you're driving, but
Well, you're not
really
supposed to be,
not so much. So I just really, you know, want to bring the opportunity and the challenge forward to people to look at journal writing as a form of prayer,
Mhm,
a form of prayer that really can be beneficial in three different ways. And those were again that it helps you be focused and clear
mhm,
on what's happening right now in your life and what
mhm,
you're thinking about it.
mhm,
It helps you to connect with the divine in a
Mhm.
very, what did I say? A very tactile way,
Mhm.
a very grounded way.
Mhm.
And the last thing is it helps to document the progress that you've made in your spiritual journey, keeps
Mhm.
you encouraged, keeps
I think
you,
there's real value in rereading those documentations because it
yes,
helps you really remember
yes.
what came out for you, and it's truth. It's truth about you, and it's truth about your connection. So I think
Mhm,
it's
mhm.
incredibly valuable to be able to refer back.
Yeah, beautiful. So with that new awareness or that refreshed awareness, I think we're going to wrap things up today, Judy.
Okay. I think this was incredibly valuable for me, and I hope for those that are watching and listening. It's
Yeah.
important time for you.
Okay. Oh, before we stop, I got one more quote to throw in here. It's a day of quotes. The ones you've shared a quote, I shared two at the beginning of this podcast, and here's one more. Okay.
Okay, you got
So
it.
this isn't just our idea. This is by a woman, a Moroccan feminist writer and sociologist named
Mhm.
Fatema Mernissi, and she said, "Writing is one of the most ancient forms of prayer. To
Mm.
write is to believe communication is possible, that other people are good, that you can awaken their generosity and their desire to do better." So
Oh, those are
I think
great words for us to end on.
it is. So let's write, Judy.
I
Let's get
got
it
it.
down.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Okay. Love
Talk
you.
soon. See you next
Okay.
week.
Great.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye, sweetheart.